Hey
Hey
everyone,
guys. Yep, this is Josh.
and this is Mike,
And I'm here.
and I'm Mike.
And this is must see before you die. And tonight we're talking about Poltergeist from 1982. This is a Tobe Hooper film. Tobe Hooper directed the first Chainsaw Massacre, right, Mike?
Yes, one of my favorite horror movies.
Right. So this is also a PG film, which nowadays it would not be a PG film for sure. But I think back then, though, Mike, I don't. This is before PG-13, though, so that's why. And it's
So
not.
was you born in 82?
Who?
You?
No, 83.
So I was born in 71, so I was 11. I was the same age as probably the brother in this movie. So yeah, it's yeah, the hair and the very beginning, the hair, and then the remote control cars and the bicycle and the and the clicker. I remember the clicker type was trying to watch movies in the clicker. Huh?
What's a bicycle?
A bicycle. You spell it B-I-C-Y.
I'm teasing you, Mike.
What do you call it?
Mike.
Bicycle?
Hello.
Are you frozen?
No, you are.
I'm not frozen. You're frozen.
No, you were frozen. Your screen went black.
You're frozen. Hey, this is what happens when you have a cheap internet, right? We got a budget here.
So, hey, the Rotten Tomato score, guys, is an 88% for the critics and a 79% for the audience. You know what? This movie, 1982, I can see this movie being pretty amazing for 1982, Mike, honestly. Now, some of the stuff doesn't hold up, but some of the stuff does hold up, though, doesn't it, Mike?
Yeah, I thought overall watching the movie, I mean, there was a couple of cheesy scenes. You know, it's 41 years old, so
right.
Yeah, I could see a remake on this, and I think you told me there was a remake at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the whole storyline's pretty cool.
Yeah, it so the story revolves around a dad, a mom, and 3 kids varying in age. And I'll get to it when we get to it, but the daughter's like 15 or something or 16, and we'll get to it. But so I thought the opening of this movie is really cool. It's got like the TV that signs off that used to happen back in the olden days, right, Mike? You remember it. And and so
remember it well, Josh.
The TV goes to static, and it's like doing this weird thing, and like the little girl's like comes in and like talking to it or something, and it's just kind of a really cool, creepy tone that's set for the movie, right, Mike?
Yep.
That's where she says they're here at the beginning.
Sticks her hands up on the
screen.
They're here.
Right. So I thought that was a pretty cool tone for the movie. I noted that they're in the kids' room, the young daughter and the son. There's a creepy ass clown that they show right away in it, like a doll. He's creepy.
You know, right off the bat, that thing's coming back at some point in the movie. Right off the bat.
Yes.
What about the bird? The bird dies, and they try to let it get ready to flush it down the toilet.
Yeah, yeah. And they're having a swimming pool dug, Mike, at their house, and there's some So the bird dies, and it's all because of that, like the stuff shot out of the TV into their wall, like the spirit, and it left like a burn spot on their wall. I can't believe they didn't notice it. The dog was barking at it, like, you know. And this bird died, I think, because of the spirits. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, they go to bury it in the yard and stuff. And I don't know. They say a bunch of stuff about it. But there's this creepy moment where the daughter's leaving for school on her bicycle. And these like construction guys that are like in their 30s and 40s are like catcalling this 15-year-old girl, Mike. Was this like a common thing back in the 70s and 60s?
Back in the 70s, I mean, they're all smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, and smoking pot. You know, you saw that. The parents were in the bedroom smoking dope.
I know, but
and dope is a 70s and 80s word, dope.
Listen, Mike, I know my dad says it. Oh, people smoking. I said, Dad, no one calls it dope, dude.
We call it dope back in the day, not as in dope being cool, but dope.
Yeah. So I said, Michelle, there must just have been a lot more perverts back then that thought they could get a lot of young girls. Even though people say it's worse now, I don't believe that from what I've seen in these movies. I'll tell you that.
Well, back then, you got married when you were 16. I mean,
no, yeah, but not to a 40-year-old Mike.
Oh, yeah. Jerry Lee Lewis, ask him.
Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah. So I said, things are just starting to happen in this house. The mother's a stay-at-home mom. The dad. Oh, I like the dad. What's his name? Ed.
Craig T. Nelson.
Oh, Craig T. Nelson. I do like that guy.
Really good actor.
Yeah. But the mom's home with the youngest daughter, and things start to happen. Like chairs move. Oh, that was really cool. Like where she like picks the daughter up, and then she looks back, and like all the chairs are stacked on the table.
Yeah, that was really cool. I had that down in my notes. That was a cool scene.
Yeah, that was a cool scene, no doubt. I really like that. And then there's like a part where there's like a part where in the kitchen where if you set anything in this circle that she has like this mapped out from the day, it'll like slide to the other side. She like showed her husband couldn't believe it. He was like, what the heck? Yeah. And that was really cool.
And then he's also got this little beef going on with his next door neighbor because like clickers, remote controls, and their neighbor, they go over and try to check out their neighbor and ask if anything crazy is going on a little bit later on. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And you also said the dad is a salesman for this whole development.
Right. Yeah.
Like he's like the best salesman. I think one of the first ones they had, but he's sold over half of the lots in there. So he's like the OG, the original person that's moved in there, and that house is the original house.
Right. So one of the big things happens here, Mike, that comes up next in my notes is this tree outside, like it's freaking this kid out in the room, and all of a sudden it comes alive and breaks through the window, grabs this kid out of his bed. I mean, this was crazy, Mike. I love this part. I thought that was super cool. And he took the boy, and then while the parents are outside worried about this kid in a tree, the closet in the room opens up and becomes like basically like a portal and is like sucking everything into it. I mean, literally everything is being sucked into this closet. The girl's holding onto the thing and her feet are up in the air, dangling, and she finally can't hang on any longer, gets sucked into this closet, Mike. I mean, it was pretty crazy scene because the parents are worrying about the kid in the tree. They end up getting him down, but then they go back in and the little girl's nowhere to be found, isn't it, Mike?
Yep.
And her name's Carol Ann, the little
Carol
girl.
Ann.
Yes. I said, and then she's like in the TV, she can like talk, she's like in another dimension.
Yeah, the mother's talking to her through the TV, and
yep. It reminded me of Stranger Things in a way, like how they.
I told my wife later on the movie when they show the portal and the rope is in one side and the rope's coming downstairs. I said, that's the original upside down universe that Stranger Things copied. 40 years later.
Yes. Well, Stranger Things took a lot from the 80s and inspiration. That's for sure. I said they called experts in, like two dudes and an older lady in, and to try to figure this out, like that, like investigate paranormal stuff. Well, these people have never seen anything like this. They were just like, and they couldn't believe it. And they were recording all these different areas with like, video cameras and all this stuff.
And when they take that lady, they show her. Now, this is the one part I didn't like of the movie that kind of showed its age, was when they're showing the lady and the two guys around. They go upstairs, and the bedroom door is locked where a lot of this took place at. And they open it up, and like they said, things are floating around in there or whatever. They open the door, and it looks very old. I mean, you got a record floating around. It looks like it's on a string or something.
Yeah, Michelle thought that exact same thing.
Yeah, it looks pretty cheesy. That's probably the major part. That, and then the monster at the end when it comes through a door, like its face, that kind of looked a little cheesy. But that is probably the cheesiest part of the whole movie that didn't hold up to the times nowadays. But in the 80s and the portals and the whole haunted stuff was going on. You had the Amityville horrors, movies that came out previously. So this kind of felt, was right in that wheelhouse of those type movies.
Yeah, I said the house is crazy with paranormal stuff at this point.
Yeah.
And the guy's seeing stuff. The guy goes to eat something and he sees like maggots all over the food and the steak's moving on its own.
The steak.
That looked like steak that Mike cooks.
That was called rare.
But listen, then this guy that's helping him goes into the bathroom to like wash his face or something. And this is literally a gross scene that you would never see in a PG movie nowadays.
I'd forgotten all about this scene.
He's like wiping off his face, and all of a sudden he sees his skin rip, and he's like, "What?" And then as he's like touching his face, you can tell the special effects where they just put the dummy in front and the guy's like reaching, but it's still a cool effect. He's like basically just pulling off his skin. His nose comes off. His like forehead, like
see the skeleton underneath, and
yeah, like his lips rip off, like everything. Like it's a skeleton.
And it's just falling down in the sink, and it just looks like flesh and milk.
Yeah,
it's pretty disgusting.
It's pretty gross in my opinion. It's really cool though. I really like that. I said the guy ripped his face off. That's what I said. I said they do end up seeing a ghost. That guy, actually, the guy that ripped his face off, he couldn't take no more after that. He left. So then it was just an older lady and another guy that were there with them. But they do end up seeing the ghost. And then the older lady recommends they bring in this medium that is, well known, right?
Yeah, I couldn't help but laugh when I see her though, because she was in a lot of movies back in that time period.
And she's like
that real Southern accent.
Yeah, she's like, hey, and she had that high pitched voice.
She said, "Hey, where's that bicycle?"
Yeah, she sounded like Mike's accent. Yup,
sound like one of my aunts. One of my aunts I go to church with back in the day.
So yeah, they brought this medium in, which was really cool because she like goes in the main room, and she's like, this is bad. Also, like we can get her, but we have to like go through this portal. They like throw the rope in there and stuff, or they try some different things to see. And the portal in the kids' room is connected to a portal in the ceiling of their living room. And so they figure out that they can go inside here and get the daughter, the wife does, tie a rope around her. And this thing tries to get him to drop it, but the other guy is downstairs pulling on the rope. They end up getting them out. They're all covered in like this ooze and stuff. It's crazy. And
real quick,
I thought that was. Oh, and listen, guys, if you're sensitive to flashing lights, this movie's not for you.
Yeah, because it's like a strobe light theater.
There's tons of flashing light in this movie. Some of it I was like, God, man, it was a little much, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, that was before it became out, warning about stuff like that. People would stroke out or have a fit. Hey, two things real quick I want to say right there, because this did throw a little bit of comedy in this movie too. The little lady, I can't remember her name, the medium, she was upstairs looking around, and she asked a question, and the guy, Craig T. Nelson, I can't remember his name of the character, but he starts laughing all of a sudden. His wife's like, "Why? What are you laughing at?" He's like, "Because I answered her, but I didn't to myself. I wanted to see if she was, she could hear me.
Oh.
So she must not be very good." And then all of a sudden she says, all of a sudden you hear her upstairs go, "Well, I don't always answer everything people ask me," or something. So she did hear what he had said.
Right.
And then also when they was getting ready to throw the rope in, she was tying it around her waist. And the lady goes, "Let me go." And she's like, "No, I'm going to go." And she says, "Well, you don't have experience doing this." And the little old lady goes, "Oh yeah, I don't. So maybe you do need to go."
Yeah, that was funny. Well, they end up getting back, and then like they cleanse it or something. I don't know. And so everything's fine again. I mean, their house is normal, but they are moving
packing
out
up stuff, and they're heading out.
Yeah, they're like, we're getting the frick out of here. And then we see this stupid clown again, comes alive, grabs this kid, pulls him underneath the bed.
You've also forgot to mention, though, right here's
he had a talk with his boss. I forgot about that.
That's key. That's key.
Talk about that, Mike.
Yeah, so the boss comes around and comes to his house, and he's he ain't seen him in a while. He's calling in saying he's sick. They hadn't seen his daughter at school, so his boss takes him for a little walk, a little ride, and goes up to this nice hilltop area and says, "Hey, would you all this out here? We've bought it, and we're getting ready to do this, this, and this can be your spot." Basically, his boss is afraid he's getting ready to go to another competitor, and he wants to keep him. And then somehow it gets brought up about he sees like a burial area, and he asks, he basically asks him, says, "Well, what'd you do with this?" And he says, "Oh yeah, we moved it." And he goes, "What?" He says, "Yeah, we moved that. We can relocate that. That's no problem. Don't worry about that." And he's like, "Yeah, but that just seems a little odd. That doesn't seem right." So something at that point is going on, probably behind the scenes, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But
so they go back to the house. The kid is getting hit by this clown or whatever, and then they can't find the little girl again, right, Mike? Isn't that what it is? So she runs outside, and the mom goes to this pool. She like falls into it with all this water because it's raining, and all of a sudden all these freaking skeletons like start popping up, man, out of the ground. Now, there's a rumor that those are actually real skeletons, Mike.
It's a rumor. It can't be proven, right?
That's right. But it can't be proven that it's not true.
It's true. And really, this whole thing could be true, and we don't know that. It's not proven that it's not true.
Yeah, sure. But so there's a bunch of skeletons, and then they're like the caskets are just popping out of the ground. And then like Craig T. Nelson, like,
Josh, I think you got a poltergeist going on because you keep freezing up. Like, I think you're coming through the screen.
Listen, Mike, on my end, you're froze, buddy.
I think there's some kind of paranoia poltergeist going on right now on our screen live. We're videoing it.
So, he corners his boss and he said, he goes, "You moved the headstones, but you left the bodies." And so they built over a cemetery, and his house is over the top of it. So that's what all this is about, all these poltergeists and different stuff. And so they get in the car and they take off, and all these freaking caskets are coming to the ground and all this stuff. It's crazy. And this must have been a thing back then because supposedly, in the movie The Shining, that, the Overlook Hotel was built over a Indian burial ground, and see, that made it haunted or whatever and evil.
Yeah.
So like that was some kind of a thing back then, apparently. And then I thought there was a really cool shot in the house. Sorry, this is before. But there was a really cool where the mother was trying to look for the daughter. And then there was like a hallway shot. And it made the hallway look like a mile long. And she was like running down it. That was a really cool effect, I thought. But the house ends up like right in front of the boss. Like the house just like sucks together.
Back in that time period, 1982, that was some pretty good effects in this for back then.
The house imploded, I said.
There was awesome scene also where the mother was climbing the wall. Man, that was back before The Ring and all these other shows back years later on. But the mother was climbing up the wall and over top of the wall. I mean, it's basically an upside down scene. But for back then in 1982, that was pretty freaky.
Yeah, and the house imploded in front of everybody. I mean, it was pretty cool. I'll say, Mike, I did enjoy this movie overall. I really did.
I kind of thought I was kind of worried you wouldn't have, because I did think it kind of started a little slow. Now when it hit and it kept going pretty fast, but
yeah,
it was a little bit of a slow start on it. I didn't know if you would like it or not.
Right. So out of 5 apparitions, Mike, I'm giving it a 3.5 because I thought it held up well. Some of the special effects didn't. But overall, I thought the story was good. The acting was pretty good. And I thought it was pretty good for sure. So I'll give it a 3.5, Mike.
So I'm going to go a little higher than you, believe it or not. After watching this again and thinking many years ago how slow it was at the beginning, I'm going to go with a 3.75. I think it's really solid movie for the time period. I'd love to see a newer version of it. And I know you said there's one out there. I'm going to watch it hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Craig T. Nelson's awesome in this. The little girl who later on, you and I talked about it, passed away a few years after this.
Right.
It was a really sad story on that, but she did a great job as a young actress.
She comes back in there's 2 more sequels, Mike, and she comes back in them. So
okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought it was really good, and I thought it held up overall. I mean, there was a couple scenes in it that's like, but I mean, for 41 years ago, I think it's pretty good.
I think the second one actually has. I don't know if it has all the cast, but I definitely Craig T. Nelson comes back in the second one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'll say that, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good movie. I definitely recommend seeing it. There was no kills in this movie, Mike.
Yeah. First
None.
time we've done a movie with 0 kills.
That's right. So
I don't know
think
that
it's
we've
good.
ever
Check it
seen
out.
a thriller or horror movie that had 0 kills in it. Is there? I don't know.
We haven't done a movie yet that had 0.
It
So
may be the first one we've ever, or I know it's the first one we've done. It may be the only one I've ever seen.
right. I thought it was good, Mike. Like I said, I definitely recommend it, guys.
Well, it's much better than The Nun I watched this weekend, and that's 40-some years ago.
Yeah, that looked horrible. I never seen it.
All right, thank you guys. What do you think? Have you ever seen Poltergeist? You know, there's some iconic things. You know, they're here. The little girl with her hand up on the screen, and the
Yep.
shh. Those are some things that are classic. Guys,
No
have
doubt.
a good one. Please like, subscribe, comment, and
Yep.
check us out on Must See Before You Die Horror Community.
On Facebook. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.